Did he have to convince you, or he just said, "Ma, trust me, try this," and you did?
I trusted him, and I tried it, and it did. He wouldn't bring nothing to me as his mom that I wouldn't trust.
My name is Jack Maxwell. I once had a job as the booze explorer. Here we go, here we go. But then I got sucker punched by cancer. I then started a whole new journey. Oh my God, is that good? The culture of cannabis. I have cancer, it doesn't have me. Come on, up on the magic bus with me, and let's hit the high road.
Come along with me on this high road.
So Drew tells me you have a very interesting story, Mrs. Milburn.
I always have interesting stories.
I'm sure you do. Living the full life that you have lived.
That's right.
But I mean, vis-a-vis CBD and what it's done for you.
Well, it's done a good job. It is something that you can take that works in your body, and it's more natural than a lot of the things that are out there that harm you. So I'm very happy with it.
Were you pro CBD before your boy got into it? The business, I mean?
Sorta. I just kind of grew up in a generation where you didn't do stuff like that.
It was bad, right?
Yeah.
No good.
I tried it, and it wasn't bad for me. But I'm glad that he's into something that's there to help the body and slow the pain down. It's really great.
Did he have to convince you, or he just said, "Ma, trust me, try this," and you did?
I trusted him, and I tried it, and it did. He wouldn't bring nothing to me as his mom that I wouldn't trust.
I believe
right.
that.
Yes.
But before that, he told you he was getting into the cannabis business. What was your reaction?
Well, I thought it was awesome.
You didn't think he was a drug dealer?
No,
Oh.
you know, he was my son, and I taught him well.
So when you took it, what did it do for you exactly?
Lessening of the pain.
Of what? What do you have?
I had 2 broken arms about 3 years ago.
That's a lot of pain.
That's a lot of pain. There's days it's really hard to get through it.
After the operation, what'd they give you for it?
Oh, them same old pain pills, and I wouldn't take them, and they got
At
mad
all?
at me. No, they made me so sick, I said, I don't want them.
And so then that's when you turned to CBD.
Yep.
And it helped.
And I could rest. That was the one good thing, that I could rest and sleep at night.
I could say
Yes.
that. It helps you sleep.
Yes.
That's how I got into it.
To me, putting something that is more pure into your body is better than something that you read on the labels that says can kill you.
Yeah.
Because the idea is that quality of life
Yeah.
in anything, right?
Sure.
And I think
Absolutely.
that's what we've, you know, especially with my parents and the things that we've been able to work on with, whether it's our parents or friends or family. Hemp is an amazing piece in CBD, what's derived from hemp, you know, whether it's proteins or CBD oil. It's a miracle plant on many fronts, and especially in regards to where our family's been with it for sure.
Because there's people out there now who could use this, that's suffering and going on. And I think it's really good that there's a product out there that comes grown from the earth and can take and help somebody that you don't read on the label, if you take this, you will die. You know, you can die. That's your, and I said, well, if you die, it's the medicine that you're given for isn't any good anyway.
Anything you want to say to people who might be suffering?
I say give it a shot. You can't do no harm otherwise, and it'll come up to you. I know I used to be that same way, but I changed my mind when I realized that this was a lot better way to go and a lot better thing to do, and it's more natural for your body. So don't just hang back because you was in my generation growing up, because it's a good thing to happen to this generation.
And this
Thank you.
lady looks like she knows what she's
Amen.
talking about.
That's right.
You better listen to her,
I'm
right?
73,
You know what happens when you don't listen to mama, right?
Yeah.
My baby here, I know that if there's anything he can do for mama, he'll do it. And if he'll make sure mama's taken care of.
Let's walk back.
My broken arms.
Yeah. You're very inspiring.
Take a ride with me on this high road.
What a sweet story. And now we have with us one of those two, Mr. Drew Milburn. Thanks for joining us, Drew.
Absolutely. Glad to be here.
How sweet is your mama?
Hey, don't get no sweeter than mama. Buddy.
I feel the same way about my mother. I think it's so wonderful that you were able to do for her what our parents do for us growing up. They wipe our noses, they teach us how to tie our shoes and how to walk the path in life that we need to be good, successful, and healthy people. And then we turn that, don't we, on our parents and take care of them, or at least that's the natural order of things. And and I didn't know what happened at the time, but when your mom told me she broke her arms
Yeah.
and they gave her opiates and she didn't want to take them, you were left with a choice.
That's
Either
right.
force mom to take something that you knew was great because you were in the business, or just let her go without and not maybe make her mad. How do you convince your mother to take something she was so dead set against?
Well, I think it starts really with the fact that she knew what was bad for her, right? So, mom, before her time as a preacher, was a nurse, and so she's been around, the typical solutions. And for me, her knowing what wasn't good for her was the open door to talk to her about something I believe wholeheartedly was good for her. So that started a conversation that might have been a little awkward any other time.
As you know, we had a doctor on right before this answering questions, and the questions run far and wide. There's just so much curiosity and interest in CBD and medicinal THC right now. How did you get into it all?
Well, it was, for me, it was a stumble effect, to be honest with you. Because again, I grew up with my mom and many like her that were dead set against any of the, say, typical homeopathic solves. And so when I first got involved in cannabis, even I was a little skeptical about, why people might be doing it or why people might be trying it, until I opened my first store. And getting to know the people that were coming through the front door and how it really, really was affecting their lives in a positive manner. And of course, being a former Marine, some of the stories that hit me the most were the PTSD stories, just the quality of life changing as they, all these service members got off of significant opioids and variations of products that were just eating them alive. And their stories is what helped me carry my mission toward.
I'm glad you brought that up. You went into the Marines 1980, left in 1992. Why? Why did you go into the Marines? And did anything about that experience help you going forward when you got into the CBD and THC business, like you say, PTSD, etc.?
Well, interestingly enough, I always joke that I joined the Marines to take a break from the dairy business. My father was a dairyman, and as tough as the Marines were, I got to sleep in an extra half hour if I joined them. So that worked out pretty well for me. But I enjoyed, I'm the type of person that wants to challenge himself on a regular basis. And the Marine Corps in 1980 offered that challenge to me. And through that whole time in service, what you learn is beyond the challenges is how important it is for people to rely on one another. I mean, it's a different scenario while you're in the service, but the same could be said when you're out. It's like, how do we take care of one another? And again, from the cannabis community was a little microclimate in itself, and welcoming to me as an outsider when I came in.
How does a dairy farmer turned Marine get into CBD and medicinal marijuana? It seems like a stretch. How do you decide one day to do that? That's fascinating.
Well, I think I wish I had a glamorous story, but frankly, I came into it from a economics standpoint. I realized the movement that was going on in Southern California at the time, and I felt the energy coming from the movement. And I thought it was kind of like being a Marine, frankly. You're drawn to that high energy where people are putting a maximum effort into the success of something. And in this case, it was the success of an industry, bringing it out of the dark and into the light. And that's being a part of that energized group is kind of what sucked me in. And from there, I've always been the type of person who wanted to make a mark as well within that energy. So for me, it's been a blessing always. It just, even though it was economically driven, I have to say that it's become an emotional piece for me, just in the fact that you cannot count how many times in a week or a month I get a chance to speak about a product that is giving someone back their quality of life. And that doesn't matter if it's someone who has PTSD. It doesn't matter if it's someone that's ever even, watched a war movie. I can tell you from my mother's angle, God-fearing, good Christian folks, all the way to the other side of the aisle, that are looking just for relief and a way to make it back from the edge of insanity that comes along with pain. I mean, pain will drive you, whether it's emotional pain or physical pain, will drive you to do things you would have never, ever dreamed of any other time.
You took a calculated risk, probably seeing the writing on the wall, knowing that it was going to open up exponentially and there were going to be more opportunities there. Is that fair to say?
Oh, I think that's a fair statement, Jack, for sure. I mean, meaning that the calculated risk for me was, at the end of the day, will someone do what's right and open this up to people in need? And the risk was that they were going to stay as closed-minded as they had been for, 30 years or more. But the risk paid off, and here we are today, sitting in a situation where every day we're out there making it happen and helping people with their pain.
What do you think drove the sea change in people's points of view? Because I know that there were more against than for as little as 10, 12 years ago, maybe 15, I don't know exactly, and now more for legalization than against. I understand people because they talk to other people who use it and say they got benefits from. But how do you change the lawmakers' minds? Is it money? Is it influence? Is it I'd love to believe, I want to be an idealist and say, well, they saw people getting help, so they changed their minds. I know that's not always the case. What do you think happened? Turn the tide.
I think that is a large part of it, Jack. I think what happens is lawmakers have families too. And I've seen they're in Arizona, which I know you spent a lot of time there. In Arizona, we have a former attorney general that was a big reason that Arizona itself got into the medical marijuana, was able to get it through. Because again, no matter where you're sitting, when you have a child or you have a parent or you have a brother or a sister in need, you're going to look for things, especially when the typical fixes that your average doctor can sign for you don't work. When they don't work, you're going to find, how many times you see people fly around the world for some sort of miracle, this or that, right?
Sure.
Well, in this case, the doors had already been open, so these lawmakers didn't have to go far. It didn't take much effort to walk down the street with your sick child, your sick brother, your sick sister, your sick mom, your sick dad, to find someone who had a relief for you. And with that, the storm starts brewing, man. It just keeps rolling.
I think probably they realized there was an economic benefit to the country as well, taxes, etc. But for whatever the reason, if it's good for the people, I'm glad the tide is turning. Let's talk about your mom for a second. She was probably checked every box, someone who could be against it for whatever reason. How do you say, okay, Mom, you're not going to like this, but, and how does that conversation begin?
Yeah, it was difficult the very first time because, again, growing up, I always knew that was not something in Mom's forte. What was interesting is the very first time I said something to her, Jack, I said, Mom, I got some news for you. I don't really know. I hadn't been nervous for many years, by the way, but I said, Mom, I got a little news I want to break to you. She knows me as an entrepreneur. I said, hey, gotten myself into another business, and I don't know how to break it to you. I said, but I've gone into the cannabis business. And she's like, you know what, son? We were just talking about that in church, a couple weeks ago, and the ice was broken. And so at that point, I was able to sit and talk with her about, because she didn't have a direct connect, no one she could really trust, like a lot of folks that had any experience with it. So I was able to, it was an amazing conversation. I was able to open up and share with her how many stories, from doctors to nurses to, the plumber next door, you name it. I was able to share so many stories of this, where this product had helped them. And she's like, well, let me get some, son. Let's see what she does. And I think she was sold on it from that point forward.
It took only one conversation to convince her to try medical marijuana.
Yeah, and I think, well, for her, it's from the CBD side has been where the real relief comes from, the anti-inflammatory products that CBD bring to it. And again, with her, remember, she's a woman who, once she makes her mind up, she's on it. There's no half stepping in my family. That's for sure.
When you convinced your mom to take CBD, medicinal marijuana,
Mm-hmm.
as she said, her arms were broken and she did not want to take opiates because she felt they were bad. She must have been in so much pain. What was her reaction after taking it for the first time?
Well, I think the initial reaction is I think she was kind of impressed with how quickly she was able to feel the relief from the pain, right? Which I think is the experience of a lot of folks, by the way, is that quickness that it helps you. And I think the other thing that was the real turning effect is she didn't have the side effects. Just remember, all these prescription medications, all of them come with some sort of ridiculous side effect, and it's very seldom that you don't have a side effect. And in her case, the no side effect and the almost immediate relief from the product was what really changed her mind about it. I can't tell you how many times it's been, people wonder, well, will this work for me? It doesn't take you very long to figure out if it's going to work or not work.
We filmed that episode last year. Her arms were recovered. Even more so now. I'm sure she's feeling great. Does she still take CBD?
CBD, absolutely, yes. Matter of fact, we were just talking about trying to make up Mama's special recipe around here. So,
is she going to have her own product? I want to be a part of that.
That's right. Well, you're first in line, buddy. Don't worry about that. Yeah, well, you know what it is? It's like it's kind of like anything else, Jack. You want to make a product people can enjoy ingesting or working as well. My father suffers from arthritis, so we're working on a cream for his hands, and so between him and my mother, this is I've got a good kickoff for whatever product development we need.
I get this question all the time, and I'm sure you do as well. But from your perspective, someone who helped his mom, got into the business as an entrepreneur, also to help people, what do you think is the most effective delivery system for CBD or medicinal THC, or does it depend on the person?
It certainly depends on the person. Let me say that first. But I'm an advocate personally for tinctures because it's a good, happy middle road way to ingest it. So what happens is smokable, and anyone who smokes medical marijuana or even smokes maybe a hemp joint as well will tell you that that's probably the fastest way for relief. But with that, you're still smoking something, right? So I don't know if that enough research has been done for everyone to buy off on that. So for the person who is still on the fence and is not interested in smoking, which is a lot of people, I think the tincture is the way to go. And then, all the ingestibles. And then frankly, we all suffer the older we get from some type of, inflammation of our joints and this and that. So topicals are an incredible way to go as well. So tinctures, topicals, and then again, dosage is everything. That's the one thing I would say to anyone who's watching is dosage is where you want to begin, no matter what your step is.
How does someone who's just starting out inform themselves?
Well, I think topicals are the easy one to talk about first. I think topicals is, you put it on, you may end up having to try a half a dozen, but I guarantee it wouldn't be the first time someone walked into a pharmacy to get some type of cream that did work and some type of cream that didn't work. So you may have to go through that, but you'll find the right combination. And so the topicals are very easy because it doesn't take long to figure out if that product is right for you. A couple of sessions with that particular cream, it either works or it doesn't. Move on to the next one. Tinctures and the dosages for those start light. It's better to take a small dosage more often than it is a large dosage all at once. I think what happens is people want to, they feel the pain, they just want some instant relief. But trust me, the way this works with your body, if you're patient, you will find that sweet spot. And I don't think there's been enough professionals, meaning doctors, that have studied this intently enough, unfortunately, because due to the government regulations, not the fact that they don't want to, but just that they haven't been given the platform to do so. So I think a lot of self-experimentation is the route to go. So
I hope your story changes people's minds, at least about being open-minded about it, because your mom, like we say, she was in a lot of categories that might be resistant to trying CBD or even medicinal marijuana. She was in the elderly population, which they have a certain particular point of view, maybe not as open-minded about experimentation because they could be set in their ways. She was a wonderfully charming, sweet Southern lady. She's a preacher. She's a mom. And so, you want to have your head on right and do the right thing to take care of your kids and grandchildren now. If someone like that can be open-minded and try things, maybe I can too. What I'm saying is I think she's going to change the dynamic for people who maybe wouldn't try it because of all those categories we mentioned.
Well, it won't be the first time Mama changed her mind. And whether she's in the pulpit, on behalf of God, or she's out there on behalf of everyone else working toward a better quality of life. I mean, what I would say is just in general, especially in these times, we all seem to be a little bit more on the lockdown with our mindset. I think now more than ever, an open mind is what's called for all the way across the board.
Wonderful story of unity, acceptance, tolerance. Thank you, Drew. I know, and I don't want to do this to you because you're a nice guy and we're friends. But if people wanted to get a hold of you and ask you things, would that be possible?
Absolutely. I would encourage anybody who wants to reach out. Hopefully you've got my email, but it's
yeah, we do. We had it loaded just in case you said yes. It's right here.
Awesome. Well, then feel free to reach out. And if it's someone in that older bracket, I'm sure my mother would have no problem reaching back out as well.
What a sweet lady. I hope you give her my best and tell her I not only appreciated her time, I appreciated her story. I love you, Mama.
Well, yeah, she's easy to love, buddy. She's easy to love.
Well, you too, pal. So thank you for your time. That's Drew Milburn, COO of Vertical Wellness. And thank you for joining. We'll be here again next week, same time. It starts with a live Q&A. You can ask me anything, 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific. And then we have another episode, a mini segment of The High Road, followed by another interview. So we'll see you right here next time on The High Road. Have a great week.